Hey, thanks for joining the Cosmetic Podcast.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
Hey, we're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Rodrigo Ross.
I'm Keith Benson.
So today we are talking about the perfect 10. And who better than to talk about this idea of the perfect 10 than the incomparable Sharon Greenberger, the 10th president and CEO of the YMCA of Greater New York. And that in and of itself is phenomenal because that Y has been in existence for 150 years. And it took all that time to get this amazingness at its helm. Welcome to the Cosmetic Podcast, Sharon Greenberger.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
If nothing more, that sounds like some job security right there. 10 people, 150 years. Like, okay, I'm good for at least.
You know, I had to pull out my phone. I said, let me get my calculator.
I know. That's my secret to longevity. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. It's good to have a formula. That's so excellent. That's so excellent. So tell us about what's making you excited right now. Like most of our conversations here of late have really been talking about, people have been talking about what they're kind of lamenting over because this last 18, 24 months has been horrific for everyone. Well, let's shift the narrative. Like, what are you excited about for Greater New York?
I really appreciate you asking that question because I think about it a lot, right? Because we've all been living in this place of recovery and there's a heaviness to the work that we're engaged in. And there was a lot of fear that we were living with for a very long time. You're exactly right. For a long time, for at least 6-8 months, I have been thinking about this as an opportunity. And I know the word transformation is overused, but this is license for us to think about doing things differently. Nice. And as I've said to my team and I've said to my board, we were sort of at this moment of, I think, almost greatness. We had all these things in the works. Then we had to rethink and move into survival mode. But now we're in a place where we have to reinvent ourselves and we have to think like entrepreneurs and we have to think differently. And I think that's a gift, especially when you're working in a legacy institution that has honored history and honored protocol and honored ritual in a way that is really important, but that given where we are, begs us to think about what needs to change. What do we have to sort of leave by the wayside? How do we think about our service delivery model, our revenue model? Like, the last year has called those out as being vulnerable. So we have to think through things differently. And I think that's very exciting. It's scary, but I also think that sometimes fear is a good motivator, but it's forcing us to try some new things, to think about how we use our buildings differently, to think about how we could try things that we were always a little skeptical about doing. So that makes me excited. So that's a big one. And then the other, of course, is just seeing people return to us and really seeing the energy and the wonder that comes from connecting people again. And it's both humbling and totally gratifying.
So what are you trying new right now?
So I think we're trying a couple things, right? One is our virtual platform is different than it was, right? And so we are offering classes, we are offering courses, we are offering activities in ways that we did not do. And we're going to have to figure out how to make sure that that's complementary to what we do going forward. That's one. The other is we set up learning labs, for example, and I know Ys throughout the country have engaged with their educational partners to provide different learning environments for children. And we've got a couple of those models going on that I think we are going to have to think about how do we replicate and keep going. So that's a big one. I think really thinking through how we work with different generations and what people need. I think we all saw that when the pandemic hit and things were really closed down, there was a certain population that couldn't access us because they didn't have the technology to do so. And so that then I think puts the responsibility on us to think about, well, how do we communicate differently? And or how do we secure the kind of technology that families need to continue to interact with us? And so those are some of the things that we've experimented with that I think will stick around.
Awesome.
Nice. So Keith, don't get in your feelings, but this is New Yorker to New Yorker talking for a minute. It has to happen. It's happening. We're doing it early on. So every time I go home, and this pandemic has been the longest stretch that I haven't been New York. I haven't been home in almost 18 months. But before that, it's terrible. I'm about to lose it. But every 2 months or so, I would go home. And even in that, I would be amazed at the changes that are going on in so many different neighborhoods. I mean, growing up, spaces that I thought would never be these spaces are now these intricate things. As the leader of the YMCA in New York, how are you shepherding your organization through all of this, change? And gentrification can be a 4-letter word to some people. Like, how are you shepherding your organization through all of these phenomenal shifts?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question. And I think this is where the core of who we are and what we do is important, right? Because it's partly about education and it's partly about engagement. Mm-hmm. And it is making sure that we help our staff, our members, our communities, our boards understand what's happening in the city, whether it's population changes, whether it's zoning changes, whether it's policy changes, and finding their voice to be a part of that. And so that is a huge piece of what we do at all levels. We have a huge election coming up in the city, in New York City, where there's going to be a shift in leadership at the mayoral level, at our public advocate level, our controller level, and the majority of the city council is going to turn over. It's just a wholesale leadership change.
Yeah.
And to your point, these have significant implications for how New York City grows. What are the policies that will govern how we grow? What are the things we care about? And so we've been out there really making sure people understand where candidates stand, for example, on policy issues around public safety, around education, around health, so that they're informed and can lend their voices to making informed decisions so that they can see the change that they want to see. So that's certainly a piece of it. I also think, and you know this in the work that you do, right? Our branches or local branches and the partnerships they have at the community level are instrumental to understanding what's happening in our communities, what's the role we can play, where do we need to intervene to fill service gaps or to make sure people understand what's going on. And that's been true before the pandemic, and it's certainly even more true today, to making sure that people understand what's changing, what it means for them, and where they need to be involved.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Now, you guys are embarking on a new strategic plan. What's that? Thriving New Yorkers, Stronger Communities. Can you talk a little bit about that and what's the impact is going to be when this is all said and done, the ultimate goal that you all are trying to meet?
Yeah, so we created a plan in 2018. It was going to go from 2018 to 2025. We'll likely have to revisit it and think about what needs to change. But it really was, again, focused on making sure that we were improving lives, that we were really able to demonstrate the impact that we have, and that we were building stronger communities and connections that people have. We are very focused on increasing access for all New Yorkers to have access to our services and programs. So one of the things that was a big part of the plan was to complete 2 new branches in the Bronx. Their construction was delayed because of the pandemic, but they will complete construction this month, which is really exciting because we, for many years, have only had 1 branch in the Bronx, in a borough that is in great need of our services. And so increasing access is one way, right? Making sure that we are helping New Yorkers find the opportunities they need to succeed. And we know that those branches, for example, will be a huge piece of helping more New Yorkers find success, find community, find connections. So that's going to continue to be a piece of what we do. I think the civic engagement work that I talked about has been a mainstay of that strategic plan. That's become much more important. And then certainly thinking about helping New Yorkers improve their health, like all WISE do across the country. That's been a very important part of our strategic plan, whether it's through programming, whether it's through partnering with health institutions, making sure that on a community by community basis, we understand what are the specific health needs and how do we help address them. So those are all been very important parts of our strategic plan. I also think that one of the sort of principles of that plan was really using data differently to drive decisions about What are we seeing in terms of change? How do we measure our impact and success? How are we helping all of our teams use data to make more informed decisions? That is not going away. That will remain a really important part of what we do.
Yeah, yeah. So you kind of parachuted into the Y, right? Like we've had the amazing opportunity of talking to CEOs across the country who have been here for a really long time, right? And kind of made their way.
Yeah.
Keith said it, not me. He said the long time, right? But you parachuted in from a very impressive and a very storied career out in the public and private sector. Talk to us about what things are the same, but what things are very different now that you are helming the YMCA in New York.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. And look, it is true. My career path has not followed a straight line. It's been all over the place. And I feel very grateful to be here. And I will say, I spent 25 years either in community development or education or health. And one of the things that brought me to the Y was that it was this perfect marriage or this perfect union of all of those things together, right? Mm-hmm. Education, health, community, in a way that you can't find anywhere else. And so I think the platform of the Y is its most unique element, which is to say that it does all of these things in a very holistic way. And I love that because it's very hard to find that where I can sort of exercise all these different muscles and interests that I have in one place has been really important. One of the things that is similar, I spent 10 years in city government. And when you've worked for city government, one of the things you really come to appreciate is the reach and scale you can have, right? When you make decisions about policy or program and you implement them on a citywide basis, you're reaching so many people. And I feel the same way about the Y because of its reach and scale, not just in New York City, but across the country. Think about how many lives we're involved and engaged in and the collective impact that we have. That is really magical. So I love that. The thing that the Y does that I don't think one can find in many other places, and what I like to say is that people who come to us and come through our doors leave happier than when they came in because they've done something for themselves, they've done something for their families, they've done something that gives them power, energy, and joy. And I honestly have a really hard time thinking about where else can you find that, right? Like I think kids find that in school and that is really important, and God willing, everybody has jobs that they love, that they feel energized by it. But for us to be able to see that on a daily tangible basis is magic. And there are days when I'm sitting in my office and I am stuck with an issue, or I just had a cranky meeting, whatever it is. All I need to do is go downstairs and see the kids in action, go into the fitness center and see one of our 95-year-old members who's been coming here for 60 years. And I am re-energized. And I think that is a very unique element to the work.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it as magical, but it is pretty magical.
It's pretty magical.
Yeah.
YMCA Disneyland, which
you went too magical. You went to we baby magic. That's big magic.
But we're still realistic. When you go to Disneyland, everything's hidden underground. You can't really see where the magic really happens. It's all out in the open with us.
Put it all out there. So like New Yorkers, I know you guys think that you all that and some. Like you have all these.
A point of fact. We don't think that. It's the truth, Keith.
You know what? I'm sorry. I probably should have phrased my words a little bit.
You should have.
From the beginning, I should not put myself in this situation. But New Yorkers have this uniqueness to them, right? So like, what are the programming or what is the opportunity that you have going on that we should be envious about, and we need to come to New York so that you can show us your great stuff?
Oh my goodness, I'm not going to choose just one.
Okay, well take a couple. Take a couple. We got time.
We do so many amazing things. It's very hard to choose. I will say a couple of programs where, again, when we think about impact and we think about being able to say we did this and it led to this, we were very proud to help create the New Americans Initiative and the New American Welcome Centers. And it's extremely important in New York City, where 40% of New York City residents are foreign born and 40% of the workforce is foreign born. So those services, whether it's around ESL or citizenship or acclimation, are so essential to making sure that we have a thriving workforce and a thriving population. So that is one that I think we've been real leaders in. It's so important to our communities. We're always trying to sort of improve upon those programming. That's a really, really important one. And like many, we are running Y Scholars programs that have been also extremely impactful. I think for us right now, we're focused on college persistence as a part of that. And we have some really interesting program elements there that I'm sure our team would be happy to talk about, but that has helped us improve our impact for our teens participating in that program as well. And then we also have a whole slew of programs that many of you, that you do and others do, that I think have been great mainstays for our communities.
Well, sounds like a road trip that we need to come out and check out.
Oh, you absolutely do. You absolutely do.
You know, you don't have to twist my arm. I'll be there in a couple of weeks. I can't take it anymore. I'm going home. And it's a matter of fact, a couple of years while I was home visiting, I had the opportunity to go to the Achievers Gala.
Yes.
That event energized me and I had been doing Achievers for years and facilitating, instructing the courses, and had seen so many different models across the country. But that event, that was par excellence. I wish everyone could see the attention to detail and the level of excellence and the level of which that it was so, I forgot that I was there. I thought I was just a regular guest, one of the kids. I had the greatest time ever.
Yeah, the Harlem Y does an amazing job with that. Fortunately, we had a big anniversary last year that we couldn't participate in because that's when the pandemic started, but we will come back to it and create a proper celebration. And you're right, it is one that we are extremely proud of. It has been very successful. It's a way to engage our corporate partners with our up and coming great stars. So it's been great. I'm glad you got to experience it. And it's always a really inspiring event, right?
Oh, it was.
The impact of what we do. You're seeing just great talent succeeding.
Yeah, I mean, in the way it just centered the young people, like it was not, because many times when you get into events like that, you're really kind of placating the donors and the big organizations. And they did a phenomenal job at that, but it never lost sight of, this is the reason why we are.
Why are we doing this? That's right.
Yeah,
and you're seeing those
young people.
And you're seeing our young people who are being invested in year over year, right? And so there's someone who's saying, you got this, we believe in you, and we're going to support you. And that's an amazing feeling.
It was excellent. It was so excellent.
Well, you are welcome anytime. God willing,
we're getting an outfit. I got to get another outfit. It's formal. I had on a tuxedo the last time. It was so cute.
Sure if we have a show that is shoes and not mention of outfits. Okay, I'm not sure how to get away from that, but we're gonna try to transition just. I
don't see the problem. I don't understand what the problem. I don't understand.
So Sharon, we're coming out of we're getting closer to hopefully ending this pandemic. What are the highlights that are going on right now that you guys are maybe drawing a little bit closer to and doing things different because, we couldn't do things like we used to?
Yeah, so I think a big one is opening up the Bronx. Like I said, that is going to be huge for us. 2 new branches, not just state-of-the-art facilities, but interesting design elements that we've never tried. One is designed like in a campus setting. And so that's going to, with a teaching kitchen. So that's going to be something new and different for us. So that's certainly a big one. I think we're also looking at what our strategy for older active adults is right now. In New York City, the fastest growing population segment is those over 65. And that has real significant implications for us in terms of programming, in terms of access, in terms of how we create real intergenerational programming. And so that's going to be a focus for us. And then I think we're really focused, especially coming out of the pandemic and recognizing that we cannot do this work. We've always been focused on partnerships and recognizing that we need the partners of the city and our elected partners, but our corporate partners, our foundation partners. But I think there's a real opportunity to rethink partnerships. And so whether it is around some of our, again, our healthcare system partners, our insurers, our technology partners who can help us think through different technology solutions, our real estate partners to help us think about how we use our physical assets differently. That is going to be an area that we continue to pursue and look at, because again, I think what the pandemic has showed us is that we have to be scrappy and we have to try some new things, and that we have to try things that may not work out. And that's a hard thing, I think, to think about, but we need to be trying them. And so that's one of the areas that we're going to focus on. Not failure, but trying new things.
Trying new things, not the failure part. So in our conversations with other leaders and other CEOs across the country, we hear time and again that it can be really isolating being the CEO of a large organization, and that you have to be intentional about doing things that fortify you, right? Like self-care can't be selfish when you're in a space like this. So, we got to get the cheat codes, the low down tea on what are some of the things you do to take care of yourself. We've heard of CEOs dancing, shopping, sock game, fishing, woodwork, cooking. So what do you do that nobody would know to just kind of keep yourself fortified?
Well, yes, self-care is important and leadership is lonely. So those two things have to go together. I would say for me, what fortifies me, first of all, is my friends and family. I have 2 daughters that keep me very humble and keep me very informed and keep me on my toes. So I rely on them. And one of the upsides, to the pandemic, was that I had them both at home with me for 8 to 9 months. And that was hugely important because it also let me cook every night, which was a really important mainstay for me, because that's where you can exert control. And I be a little bit of a control freak. And so having that ability was very important. I'm also a runner, a really slow runner, but I'm good about getting out there and doing it, because I think it clears my head. It's where I do some of my best thinking. It lets me run around the city and see things. So that has been really important as well. And when I can, I like to read, but I find sometimes that I have big plans for reading and 10 minutes later I'm asleep. So that's
me too. That happens to me too. Like, what's your recipe? Like, what's your go-to when you cook this? Oh yeah, I got them. This is
well, so I have a few. One is brisket. That has been handed down generation to generation, and so that's a big one.
You just don't know how many Texas fans you just got when you said the word brisket.
or haters. So did that brisket come through the Texas line somewhere?
Well, so I will say the other thing that keeps me sane is knowing that, so I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in Kansas City. I'm a huge barbecue fan, and I do like Texas barbecue. I will say that, but Kansas City barbecue, nothing better. And we often have some contests, and I'm happy to engage in some taste-offs.
I'm volunteering to be a taster. Yes.
If that's important. So I lost my train of thought.
Brisket.
Barbecue.
So brisket is one.
Oh yeah. Brisket is one. I make this, it sounds so simple, but I make this pasta salad that my kids think is the greatest thing in the world. So that's the other family tradition. And then anything sweet, because I tend to like sugar a little more than I should.
I feel so seen right now, Sharon. We're connected on so many levels. Dessert should go first. And then if you have room, eat a little food.
Everything in moderation, the Y way. We all do it in moderation.
I love it.
So how old are the girls?
21 and almost 24.
Okay.
And you were in the house with them for 8 months and there were no casualties.
And I'm still sane, and so are they. And I would say we're even closer. So yes, no casualties. And even deeper bonding, which is.
Oh, it's so wonderful. I have one that's a teenager and I'm shaking my head daily like it got to get better. It just has to. It just has
Well,
to.
I would tell you, I shouldn't admit this, but I would tell you a little secret. Well, a friend of mine who had 3 girls, when my oldest one turned 13, and that was a difficult year, she said to me, well, you'll always love them. You'll like them again when they're 18. And I thought that was.
It is true. It is absolutely true. That has been my life experience. Some days I was like, if I could, you could have been like Sleeping Beauty. I could have just let you sleep through those years. And then I would have kissed you at 18. You would have woke up and it would have been a beautiful place. Oh.
See, Rodriga has a problem of being the shortest person in her house. So that is part of her problem, is that she is, what are you, 5'10"?
5'11" and 3/4.
5'11". No, you're not 5. I'm gonna give you 5'11". You ain't 3/4.
I can't have my 3/4.
Gotta give it to her now, because over time some of that might actually disappear.
Thank you.
Tell us the sizes of how tall your kids are.
So my daughter is 6 feet. My oldest son is 6'6", and my baby boy, who is only 14 years old, is 6'6" already and hasn't.
Oh my gosh!
So I do a lot of grocery shopping.
You do a lot of neck. You need to be doing a lot of neck exercises.
Yes, I have a step stool, Sharon. I don't even try it anymore. I just stand on my step stool and fuss with them. I do.
So Sharon, you guys did a whole lot of bonding together. What's the coolest thing that your daughters have taught you over this time?
Oh, all the lingo. I mean, you used the word tea and I knew what it meant because 6 months ago I wouldn't have, right? So I think just understanding what is important in terms of terminology and all that stuff. And technology has been very instrumental. I mean, I'm still a techno klutz, but they've tried to help me and that's been very helpful.
Are you doing TikTok videos?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not there yet, but a girl can dream.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Wow, this has been amazing.
Yes.
It's been great to get to know you, hear the great things that's going on in New York. You guys really set the tone for a lot of what we do in America. And so it's so appreciative to be able to talk to you. And then as the other New Yorker in here, I thank you both for making me feel like I'm a part of this right here, because she is true New Yorker right here. So
you're welcome.
You're both welcome anytime. Please come visit.
Hey, so thank you for listening to Cosmetic.
Well, we are tackling topics and telling the truth.
Hey, subscribe and listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy, give us a review.
And as always,
Be dynamic.
be phenomenal.
Be cosmetic.